You still are going to be arrested. Oh, what? You don't have any proof on me. No, ma'am, I do. Okay. What's your
She was performing on stage, thousands cheering her name. But back home, armed men were breaking into her house. And when police arrived, they didn't go after the criminals. They arrested her. This isn't just about weed, it's about how success can still make you a target. What really happened to GloRilla on July 20th? Let's break it all down.
GloRilla was arrested in Georgia on felony drug charges and was booked Tuesday in Forsyth County, Georgia. I believe I'm saying that correct. The charges were possession of a scheduled controlled substance and possession of marijuana.
You're still getting arrested. For what? You've got no evidence on me. Oh, I've got plenty, ma'am. Like what? Those were the words that sparked a firestorm. Marilla went silent was now making noise from behind bars. She dropped a video statement straight from jail, and she didn't hold back. Not only did she tell her side, but she started pointing fingers, pulling her own label into the spotlight. The big question now, were they part of her bizarre takedown? This wasn't just an arrest, it was a breaking point. They say, jail hardens. You but for Gloria Hallelujah Woods, known to millions as GloRilla, the steel bars weren't what cut deepest. It was betrayal. Betrayal by the very world she trusted to have her back. Let's rewind. Imagine being one of the top names in rap music. You just shut down the stage at the WNBA All-Star Game in Indianapolis, leaving thousands of fans in AEW. Your debut album, Glorious, just made a splash number 5 on the Billboard 200. Your next big event is on the horizon. Everything looks golden. That was GloRilla's reality on July 19, 2025. But within hours, that glittering life would come crashing down fast and brutal.
He said in a statement that I received that while they were searching the unit to see what was taken and just figure out the crime scene, they smelled a strong odor that was consistent with illegal narcotics. And as a result of that, the Linear Regional Drug Task Force was contacted and responded to the resident.
While GloRilla was hundreds of miles away in Indianapolis, soaking up the spotlight after another powerhouse performance. Something far more disturbing was unfolding at her lavish home in Georgia's exclusive St. Marlowe Country Club. Around 1:30 a.m. on July 20, 2025, the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office received a chilling call: an active burglary in progress. But this wasn't your average break-in. 3 intruders had stormed GloRilla's residence with precision and timing that suggested this was no random act. They knew exactly what they were doing, and exactly when to do it. Inside the house, someone was armed and ready, firing back at the intruders in a chaotic standoff that felt ripped from a Hollywood thriller. Gunshots rang through the quiet, upscale neighborhood, shattering the calm and sending terror into every corner. The suspects escaped into the night, unharmed. No one inside the home was injured, which is nothing short of miraculous. But what's deeply unsettling is what came after. As of this recording, those 3 armed criminals are still at large. They invaded a home, terrorized its occupants, stole property and disappeared without a trace. Now pause and think about that. These weren't the criminals arrested that night. Instead, it was the victims who found themselves in the crosshairs. They did everything by the book, called for help, defended themselves, worked with law enforcement. But once officers arrived, the case took a wild detour. Deputies claimed they smelled marijuana and brought in the Linear Regional Drug Task Force. That one scent changed everything. A search warrant was issued, and suddenly the focus wasn't on catching the burglars, was on digging into the victims' lives.
Me a statement, and in the statement, they say that the reason why they were able to arrest her was because the weed that they found was in a closet in the master bedroom.
Take a moment and let this really sink in. You've got dangerous, armed intruders still on the run after storming someone's home in the dead of night. The victims, shaken, frightened, and just trying to feel safe again. The community, on edge, knowing violent criminals could be lurking nearby. The goal should have been crystal clear: catch the ones responsible, recover what was stolen, and reassure the neighborhood that justice still means something. But that's not what happened. Instead of locking in on the actual threat, the officers on scene suddenly shifted gears. Why? Because they claimed they smelled marijuana. That was all it took, just a scent. And with that, their entire focus veered off course. The burglary took a backseat. They called in the Linear Regional Drug Task Force, secured search warrants, and turned their attention not to the suspects who escaped but to the people who called for help. Soon, the house became the new crime scene, not because of the break-in, but because of what officers found in a bedroom closet: about 2.8 pounds of marijuana and 2 jars of THC wax. Under Georgia law, THC wax is a Schedule I controlled substance. And just like that, the victims became suspects, and the home invasion investigation took a sharp, controversial turn.
The internet is calling out what's happening to GloRilla right now, and honestly, can you even blame them? So earlier this week, GloRilla turned herself in after being hit with felony drug charges. But here's where it gets wild. The whole thing started because her home in Georgia got broken into at like 1:30 in the morning.
Now think about how twisted this really is. Armed criminals invade a celebrity's home in the dead of night, terrorize its occupants, and vanish without a trace. The victims are traumatized, the neighborhood shaken, and justice should be laser-focused on catching those responsible. But instead of rallying every resource to hunt down these violent intruders, officers shift their entire investigation based on a faint scent. One claim of marijuana, and suddenly, the burglary becomes a footnote. Deputies bring in a drug task force, get a search warrant, and begin treating the homeowner like a suspect. GloRilla's attorneys, Marissa Goldberg and Drew Finneling, were quick to challenge the narrative. They insisted the drug discovery was minimal and slammed authorities for prioritizing a petty drug find over an urgent, violent crime. And when you step back, the optics are damning. Here's a Grammy-nominated artist who clawed her way up from fast food gigs to sold out. Erin is an inspiration to countless young women, especially young Black women, proving that grit and talent can rewrite any story. But in one night, all that gets overshadowed. Not because she did anything wrong, but because someone else chose to break into her house. Days later, GloRilla voluntarily turns herself in, slapped with felony marijuana charges. The internet erupts. Her tweet goes viral within hours, drawing millions of views. It wasn't just about weed. She seemed to say it was about being targeted, criminalized, and silenced. And this wasn't even her first run-in with Georgia law enforcement. The irony is crushing. While she was on stage in Indianapolis, living her dream, the gears of a deeply flawed justice system were already spinning against her. Legally, things get heavy fast. In Georgia, marijuana laws are harsh. Anything under 1 ounce is a misdemeanor, but cross that line even by a little land, it becomes a felony. GloRilla now faces up to 10 years in prison for what was found in her home, while she wasn't even there. Meanwhile, the real criminals, the ones who burst in, threatened lives, and fled, are still out there, untouched. On July 22, 2025, she was officially booked for felony possession of marijuana and possession of a Schedule I substance. Her bond, $22,260. She posted it the same day. But the damage was already done. The mugshot, the headlines, the internet noise. What followed was a media frenzy and a carefully worded statement from Forsyth County Sheriff Ron Freeman. He acknowledged GloRilla as a victim in the break-in, but in the same breath, he doubled down. The law must still be enforced in all aspects. It sounded neutral, even fair, on the surface, but dig deeper, and the meaning becomes clear. Yes, she was a victim, but she'd still be treated like a criminal. And here's the question no one seems willing to ask. Where are the arrest warrants for the actual burglars? As of July 29, 2025, there's no court date, no suspects caught, no justice served. And to the world watching, the optics are devastating. A young, successful Black woman becomes the face of criminal charges, while the people who committed armed robbery walk free. It forces us to confront a painful truth. In America, justice isn't always blind. And GloRilla wasn't about to stay silent. Her response would send shockwaves through social media and ignite a firestorm that turned her case into something far bigger than herself. But before we get there, we have to understand the deeper pattern. Because this wasn't GloRilla's first legal run-in, not even close. Just over a year earlier, in April 2024, she was pulled over in Suwanee, Georgia for an illegal U-turn at 4A.M. What started as a simple traffic stop escalated quickly when officers claimed they could smell alcohol and marijuana. Body cam footage captured her trying to cooperate. She admitted to drinking but insisted she was fine to drive. Despite her calm demeanor, officers said her eyes were red and glassy, and she failed multiple sobriety tests. She was arrested and booked for DUI, marijuana possession under 1 ounce, and an open container violation. Hours later, she was released. So now we have a disturbing pattern. Each time GloRilla interacts with the justice system in Georgia, the storyline is eerily similar. The focus seems less about public safety and more about finding any reason to put her in handcuffs. It starts to feel like more than coincidence, like she's being watched, targeted, treated as a criminal before anyone asks if she's done anything wrong. And this latest arrest. This time, she wasn't just going to take it. This time, she pushed back hard. Because what many don't realize is that GloRilla's clashes with the system didn't start with fame. They started long before the platinum plaques and red carpets. As a teenager, she was arrested for shoplifting cereal from Kmart. Not iPads, not electronics, cereal, and she claimed she spent nearly 3 years locked up for it. At first, fans thought she was joking. She later clarified on social media. The time was real even if she exaggerated parts of the story. The core truth remained. Petty theft had real consequences for her. Even as a teen, the system came down hard. Growing up in a strict, religious home where secular music was banned, GloRilla and her siblings got creative. They began stealing CDs, Lil Wayne, Drake from Walmart. They'd upload the tracks onto a PlayStation and sell them at school. Too many, it sounds like youthful rebellion. But for GloRilla, it was survival. It was access. In a world that shut her out of culture, she found a way in. But even back then, it was clear when the system couldn't contain her, it punished her. As her fame rose, the consequences followed. In March 2023, GloRilla performed alongside Finesse 2 times at the Main Street Armory in Rochester, New York. What should have been a night of celebration ended in tragedy when a stampede broke out. 3 women died, 9 were injured. Though she wasn't charged, lawsuits flew, and suddenly, her name was linked to legal fallout. In another performance in Memphis later that year, a fight in the crowd led to her arrest for disorderly conduct and inciting a riot. Again, she insisted she was just doing her job performing. But somehow, trouble always followed.
To their statement, they do say this, they are the police down there say, the homeowner is a victim of a serious crime and we are committed to bringing the suspect to justice. This was a statement from the sheriff. But he says at the same time, we must continue to uphold and enforce the law in all aspects of this.
Even in business, GloRilla couldn't escape legal entanglements. In May 2024, investor Aristotle Varner Jr. came forward, accusing her of breaching a $150,000 promotional contract. According to the court documents and Varner's own public statements, GloRilla had only completed part of the agreed package, allegedly skipping the critical meet and greet event and declining to do an interview. Varner labeled her behavior as celebrity cocky, implying that fame had made her feel untouchable, immune to the rules that govern ordinary working people. Then came the November 2024 copyright controversy, a lawsuit from an underground rapper named Pies, who accused GloRilla, along with Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion, and Soulja Boy, of lifting lyrics and melodies from his 2008 track. While the claim was dismissed in March 2025 due to lack of evidence, and what some described as an overly broad interpretation of copyright law, it reopened the ongoing debate about intellectual property theft in hip-hop, a genre historically built on sampling, remixing, and homage. The case was less about its legal merit and more about perception. The idea that Black artists, particularly women, must constantly defend their creativity as authentic, rather than opportunistic. But it didn't stop there. In June 2025, Natalie Henderson filed a civil suit accusing GloRilla of stealing her now viral phrase, "No BBL," a slogan Henderson had been using in her fitness branding since early 2022. The dispute centered not just on the phrase itself, but on ownership of cultural moments, how catchphrases, slang, and aesthetic choices birthed in digital subcultures are monetized by celebrities and corporations. GloRilla, to many, was seen as the face of authenticity, but now she was being painted as a cultural thief. The irony wasn't lost on her fans. When you lay it all out, the early shoplifting charge that almost derailed her teenage years, the CD-selling hustle that blurred the line between ambition and illegality, the 2023 DUI that critics used to attack her character, the riot-related arrest that turned her into a political flashpoint, and the growing pile of lawsuits. What emerges is more than a tabloid timeline. It's a pattern, a systematized pattern of surveillance, suspicion, and scapegoating that follows successful Black women at every turn. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. GloRilla's trajectory isn't just about individual missteps. It's about a society that criminalizes Black success when it doesn't conform to respectability politics. When GloRilla defies stereotypes, refusing to apologize, Refusing to shrink, she's seen not as powerful but as threatening. And so, at every stage of her ascent, there's been a corresponding effort to pull her back down. As a teen, she was criminalized for trying to survive. As a young artist, she was targeted for standing out. As a globally recognized rapper, she's now punished for not playing by the industry's quiet rules. Even as a victim, someone whose home was invaded by armed burglars, she's the one facing drug charges. This is not just a legal issue, it's cultural, it's systemic. It raises a chilling question. What does justice look like when the very system meant to protect you is programmed to suspect you? For many Black women, especially those in the public eye, there's an unspoken assumption that any success they achieve must have been earned through compromise, scandal, or illegitimacy. The media spins narratives faster than the courts can process facts. And even when the truth comes out, the stain of accusation lingers. This isn't just about GloRilla. It's about an American justice system designed not to protect, but to control. A system where power is preserved through punishment, especially when that power is in the hands of young, outspoken, Black women who refuse to bow down. GloRilla's story mirrors a much larger, deeply rooted phenomenon. From Billie Holiday to Lauryn Hill, from Megan Thee Stallion to Cardi B, the script rarely changes. Success is tolerated, but only if it stays within invisible boundaries. Step outside them, and the backlash is swift. And GloRilla, she stepped way outside. She didn't just chase success, she took it by force. She didn't ask for permission. She didn't play the media's game. She didn't soften her image for brand deals or clean up her language for late-night talk shows. Instead, she showed up raw, unapologetic, and real. That kind of authenticity doesn't just make headlines, it makes enemies. And when the pressure hit, when the arrests and lawsuits piled up, when the public scrutiny became unbearable, what did she do? She went viral again. But this time, it wasn't a hit song or a flashy performance. It was a message, a declaration of pain, of defiance, of survival. Her video response filmed from jail, her voice raw, her eyes tired but burning with clarity, wasn't polished or rehearsed. It was the sound of someone who'd had enough. It wasn't just anger, it was rebellion. It was resistance against a system that has always expected women like her to fold, to break, to disappear, and instead of vanishing, she went louder. She turned the camera on herself and told the world, "I'm still here." It struck a nerve because it was more than personal, it was political. It exposed the hypocrisy of a country that profits from Black culture while criminalizing Black creators. It reminded millions of people, especially young Black girls, that their stories are worth telling, even when they're painful, especially when they're painful. Her voice became a rallying cry, not just for fans, but for those who felt the system fail them, who've called for help and been accused instead, who've been punished for being visible, for being bold, for being themselves. GloRilla's viral message wasn't carefully crafted PR, it was truth. It was the kind of truth that makes people uncomfortable. The kind that forces conversations no one wants to have. And maybe that's her greatest power. Not the awards, not the fame, not even the money, but the fact that, even through adversity, she refuses to be erased. She refuses to be silent. She refuses to be small. In a world that constantly demands that Black women shrink, GloRilla continues to grow. And that growth, no matter how messy or complicated, is revolutionary. So, when people ask, why does this story matter? The answer is simple. Because it's not just a celebrity scandal. It's not just another arrest. It's a lens, a mirror, a blueprint for understanding how race, gender, fame, and justice intersect in America. And through that lens, GloRilla's life becomes more than music. It becomes a movement.